Hi, podcast family. This is Jeff Kay, once again with Echoes Across Time. And today we have a very special guest, Tina O'Keefe, who is the founder of Stow and Behold, a professional organizing company. And let's get the show on the road. Morning, Tina. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Always a pleasure. So tell us a little bit about Stow and Behold.
Stow and Behold is a professional organizing business. So I declutter homes and offices for all different clients, young and older. I do specialize in working with seniors and people who are downsizing. And I've been in business for 10 years now.
Awesome. Yeah, I know over the years, people collect a lot of stuff.
Yes, they do. And I've seen it all.
I'm sure you have. I remember when my wife and I downsized from our house, and we downsized from a townhouse to our house. We had so much stuff. I literally put a dumpster in our driveway, opened the second window, and just started throwing stuff away. I can't tell you how liberating it was. Great way to get out your frustrations. So how did you get into this?
Well, my background is in writing and service, I will say. So I've always been, creative writing. I was a communications consultant, public relations, grant writing. And I was actually writing at the time when I went to a conference on behalf of a client, and one of the speakers at the conference was a professional organizer. And after I heard her speak, I thought, wow, that's amazing. And I went to talk to her, and I ended up working for her part-time. That was back in 2006, 2005, 2006. And then I started, I got pregnant and I couldn't hold 3 jobs anymore. So I had to let the organizing go. And then fast forward, after my 3rd daughter was born, I was like, what am I going to do now? And my husband said, the organizing thing, you liked it. Why don't you give it a try? And I decided to do it, and I never looked back.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know a lot of people right now, especially the baby boomers, are downsizing.
Right. It's a really hot area right now. And what I try to impart to people is that to do it when you can. Doing anything under duress is going to result in bad decisions and bad outcomes. So if you have the time and the wherewithal, start early and do it little by little. And if that way you can preserve what you want to preserve. You can donate what you want to donate. You can sell what you want to sell. If you do it all at the last minute, you're going to end up throwing a lot of things away in a rush. And that's not always an ideal outcome. So I specialize in getting things donated for clients and making sure that a lot less goes into the dumpster.
So how does one decide what to keep, what to sell, what to donate? Because as I specialize in legacies and photographs and digitizing videos, I help people protect that legacy. So how do you help people?
Yeah, what I do, I think would feed a lot into what you're doing. So I help people. Well, the first thing that I find in a lot of homes is that the very valuable things are mixed up with things that are not valuable. There are many seniors that I work with who, if you go through a pile of newspapers or papers tucked in between the junk mail, you're going to find maybe a social security card, a passport, an old photograph, an old letter. And so my first job is always to separate the garbage and the not unimportant from the important. And that's going to be different for everybody. But, exactly what is important. But in general, the idea is to separate and identify what things are important. And then once you have them, then you can make decisions about what to do with them. If you find jewelry or if you find art, certain things have personal value. They're personal treasures, and certain things have more subjective value, like artwork and other things. Selling is not easy. Selling is hard and it's time consuming. So I unless something is extremely valuable and you know that, I don't recommend selling as like a go-to for somebody who's looking to downsize, because you just get stuck on making money and the price and what the value is. And really, in truth, you may never get back the value that you think something has. So it's something that people will get stuck on a lot.
Now, you mentioned value. How does one determine? Because I find that a very interesting subject, because you have the intrinsic value and you have the emotional value.
Of course.
So how do you separate the two?
So when I go through something and I say, what do you want to do with this item? And if the person wants to keep it, it doesn't really matter. It means that it's valuable to them, whatever that value is. It doesn't have to be monetary. So the question is, if you want to keep it, where should it live? How should it be preserved? A lot of times people have items of value that they're keeping in a basement in a cardboard box. If it's really valuable to you, no matter what it is, whether it just has emotional value, it should be preserved in a proper way so that it's secure and it doesn't get damaged, and it can be passed on to whoever you want to pass it on to. So identifying, locating these things, preserving and protecting them, and making sure that someone else knows where they are, or like if you intend it to be given to somebody, or you just want people to know that it's there, making sure that it's labeled properly and that someone knows where it's located. In terms of identifying value of other things like artwork and stuff, I work with appraisers, vintage buyers and other professionals who would give me value. I take pictures of things, and as part of my job, I'll photograph items and then send it to different subject matter experts to try to understand if something is worth anything, and if it is, what ways it can be sold if the client is interested in selling it.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I remember reading, because I think insurance companies are big into that, for you to capture what you have. So if it's lost or stolen, there's a record of it, and then they can pay it all, help you reclaim it, pay it off, buy a new one, or something along those lines.
Exactly. Yeah,
Now,
having an inventory.
Exactly. Now, I remember when we spoke, you almost have a second job. You're almost like the Sherlock Holmes of finding the missing objects.
Right.
Not
Yes.
necessarily people, but objects.
Yes.
And I'm sure a lot of that falls under organizing and the things you uncover.
Right. Sometimes I find things that people didn't know were missing, and sometimes I enter a job and someone will say, this item is missing. I know it's here. You have to help me find it. And if it's there, it will be found 100%, because I am like efficient and diligent in a way that the homeowner can't be, because if there's a big pile of something, you start going through it, you're going to get caught up halfway through looking at a piece of paper, a memory. You're going to get kind of lost in your emotion. Because I have a detachment, I can get through a lot more very quickly. But I open up everything, I put my hand in every pocket. Like that's what I do. And so if there's a ring, if there's a deed to a house, if there's a bank deposit key, whatever that is, I have found it. And I found the things that people didn't want me to find. They're like, you didn't see that, throw that away.
I come across pictures and photos and videos. The client asked me, "Oh, Jeff, did you find anything?" I'm like, "It was great. Digitized great, no problem." So now organizing is very unique, because I'm sure you come across a variety of various clients, everything from people downsizing to basically your hoarders. So how long does something take to organize? I know it's an arbitrary question.
It's a
So
tough question
settings.
because it's not my time, it's the client's time. So in my contract, it stipulates like when I do an estimate for someone, the first time I meet with you, I'll do an assessment and then we'll actually work together briefly. Like I'll pick a project that we can get done in one session, a cabinet, a closet, whatever that is. And the purpose of that exercise is so that the client can get to know me, but also so that I can determine their decision-making ability. And so when I give the estimate for whatever the work is, I'll say it is I get paid by time, not by project. And that's because it's based on the decision-making ability of the client. So if they have to go through every single piece of paper and evaluate and look at it and can't make categorical decisions about certain types of items, then it's going to go a lot slower. And so that's what will dictate how long something will take.
Gotcha. So let me ask another arbitrary question.
I don't find them arbitrary.
People who say people are moving houses happens all the time.
Yeah.
So, because people accumulate stuff, as you know, people accumulate stuff through the years. So, do you need a bigger house, or do you just need to declutter and get rid of the stuff you've accumulated?
I mean, I would always say you need to declutter. You always need to purge. Taking items with you that you haven't looked at or touched in 10 years, to me, doesn't make any sense. If you're buying a large home to house your stuff, that means you're paying, your expenses are higher, your taxes are higher, it's like everything across the line is going to be more. So to me, it always makes sense to live a little, more simply. But again, it's not my decision to make, obviously, but
Right.
that would be my advice for sure. Because then at the end of the day, it's at some point you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it because you're maintaining a storage facility that you don't really need. You're maintaining a larger home than you really need. You are getting vermin, you're getting mice, you're getting other types of infestations because you have so much stuff and you're not cleaning properly.
Come on, what's a few extra pets?
Right. You're not seeing a lot of times, the first thing I tell people when we organize is that everything has to come out. Everything has to come out. And people are always like, no, you don't really have to take it all out. And I'm like, I have to take everything out. And so many times when you do that in the back of a closet, I'll find like mold or like something else, then you'll see like, mouse droppings or whatever it is. And so it's an opportunity to evaluate and see, like, make sure that everything is okay. And so I find that you pay for it in all different ways. If you're not downsizing or you're not lightening your load, as I say, I call it lightening instead of downsizing. It makes people feel better. If you're doing it on a regular basis, then it's going to pay for itself in a lot of ways. A lot of people, I have clients who go to the allergist every week and get shots, and they have so much dust in their homes that it's like amazing. And I'm like, they don't see the correlation, but can you imagine, like, your allergies are so much worse because you're constantly breathing in dust and mites and all this other stuff that you could be cleaning properly if you maintain that.
That's why I have hardwood floors in my house.
You have what do you have?
Hardwood floors. I don't want to vacuum.
Yeah, sure.
Deal with it. But how often should somebody maintain by decluttering their house? Every 6 months, 3 months?
I don't want to scare people, but like I have a rule, for example, in my closet, I'm not allowed to have any more hangers. So that means that if something goes in, something has to come out. So that means that like I purge on like a weekly basis, like if something new comes in, if I get a shirt or a pair of pants or whatever, something's got to come out. So, if my kids say to me, I can't find blah, 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 I go and look at where they're looking and I see maybe why they can't find it, because maybe there's a big mountain of nonsense there. And I'm like, okay, let's take 10 minutes. Do you need all this stuff? Why is this all like this? My kids will tell me, oh, well, that doesn't fit me. And that didn't fit in my drawer. And I don't like that. I don't like the way it looks. And I'm like, let's bag it up and donate it. So we're doing that on the regular. So that's my recommendation is like, the longer you wait, the more it's going to seem like a big challenge to overcome. So trying to do it on a regular basis. I mean, not everything in your house on a regular basis, but like the things you come into contact with daily. And then, like what's giving you trouble, like evaluate on a regular basis on, every 6 months or, I mean, with papers, for example, I'll say like when you go to do your taxes, that's a great time to get rid of this, whatever's feeding your taxes, whatever your backup documentation is, should be with your taxes and that gets filed away. All the other nonsense, there's no purpose to keep it if it's not there to support, what your financial statements are. Keep an annual statement, keep this or that, but you don't have to keep all of your Con Ed bills from the last 50 years. You're not reaping any benefit from that. So I find that once a year is a good time to purge your papers and your filing system and stuff too, and start fresh.
Yeah, I know, because for some of my clients, since you've got to keep taxes, I think for 7 years. I'm like,
Right.
I digitize them for them.
Yes.
So
that's great. That's awesome.
So, because I'm sure you have better things to do than store boxes of paper for 7 years on the chance you might get audited.
Exactly.
And I'm going to say this, I'm not an accountant, but I'm sure that by donating stuff, not only do you purge your stuff, but I'm sure it could be a tax write-off.
Absolutely. Sure. Yep.
So people who are looking for those tax write-offs and maybe save a little money, why not? It's definitely worth to put forth a little bit of effort up front to save in the long run.
Absolutely. Yep, you're 100% right. Yeah, and I do provide receipts. I donate to all different kinds of charities, and I always give the receipt back to the client if they're interested in that, because it's important and it makes you feel better. I mean, honestly, especially when you're working with seniors who are reluctant to downsize or let things go, giving them an incentive to say like, what this item, you don't want to let it go because you don't want it to go in the garbage, but it's not. It's going to go help somebody else. And that's a huge enticement for them to let things go.
No, so another person's garbage is another person's treasure, as you say.
Sure. I mean, I work with an organization that houses homeless vets. So like, if
That's
you
awesome.
you let go of your dishes or your cutlery or, stuff for the home, they're using that to help set someone up in their new home. So that's like a really, it's a tremendous win. You don't need to have 12 sets of dishes. Wouldn't you want to give one up so someone else could start their new life?
Yeah, because I was thinking, because one of the things, since my dog literally ate my credenza, long story. Yeah, so now it's on the verge of collapse. The joys of having a puppy. I know my wife and I were looking at like places like Habitat for Humanity and other places where people donate stuff.
Yeah, sure. Fantastic. Yeah. That's the best way. I mean, I like to look a lot on eBay and Facebook marketplaces if I'm looking for something specific, because there's so many people who are, for whatever reason have to give up things. And I love to like reclaim stuff, instead of buying something new, press board nonsense, something you can get something kind of cool and original.
Absolutely. So where does your company operate out? What's your operating radius?
I'm based in Long Island and I service Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and Nassau counties. And then on referral, I go to Westchester, New Jersey, and I'm actually for the first time going to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., to help a client unpack there. So
Really?
So I am all over.
Now, is it possible that this could be done virtually?
A lot of organizers do work virtually. In fact, I'm a member of the National Association of Professional Organizers. And if you go to their directory, you will find an organizer in your area. And you can also find a lot of organizers who do this via Zoom.
So I would imagine that would put a lot of pressure on the homeowner and less on the organizer to make those decisions as to what you want to keep versus what you want to throw away. And
Right, right. And there's different ways to run that. So you could do a session in which like you're doing strategy with somebody who just needs to a roadmap to get it done themselves. Or you could be on the line with someone as they're actually doing the organizing and help assisting them in that way. My problem is that I service a lot of clients who are physically challenged and who are seniors. And so part of what I'm there for is to do the physical work. And so the virtual wouldn't work for them. They're not that tech savvy and they actually need a pair of hands to help them take things out of the closet and stuff. So the virtual doesn't really work with my audience necessarily. But it is a great tool and it is an option.
So you mentioned a lot, you work a lot with seniors. So I'm imagining maybe you help people or seniors transfer from maybe their house to a something in hospice or a nursing home or things like that. And I know going from a house, since my mom, she used to be in a nursing home or one of those facilities, and they don't give you a whole lot of space.
No.
It's almost like a college dorm.
Right. And sometimes you have a roommate even.
Oh yeah. And so how do they figure out what they want to keep,
right,
what they want to bring?
Yeah, a lot of times in those situations, especially if if where they're going is furnished, they'll be bringing very little. I will look at like maybe small pieces of furniture that might bring them a little bit of happiness, or lamps and other decorative items, stuff to hang on the walls. But usually most of the furniture would not go. And then, just clothing, like practical, comfortable clothing, and then a couple pieces for special occasions and things like that. You're almost packing like you're going on like a long cruise, but again, it depends on some places people can bring their own furniture. And so those are like case by case decisions. It's usually helpful for me to have a floor plan of where you're going so that we can measure what's in the home and then see what actually will fit.
Long cruise. I've been on a lot of cruises, and I see the way some of these people pack. And you're on a week cruise, yet they pack enough stuff to think they're going for 6 months to a year.
Right.
So
yeah, it is, and it's hard. I mean, a lot of people do go into these homes and they bring too much stuff with them, and so then I end up with clients who are in assisted livings or nursing homes, and the administration has called me in because they've created an unsafe situation in the home where they're in the residence, and so they need to help cleaning it out. I also deal with people coming out of some of those situations. Like during COVID, a lot of seniors were by themselves. They maybe like got into a bad situation because they were isolated. And that could be like bed bugs or a fall, like tripping. And so then they ended up in the hospital, ended up in rehab, and then they want to come home, but they need an aid. And so it's almost like the reverse. We're downsizing so that they can stay where they are, but making space to have someone else who might have to live there. That's a big problem for people who were previously hoarding and then or had chronic disorganization, and then they want to get help in their home and they can't because they need to make space for someone to actually be there. And the tripping hazards and the safety hazards that existed before they went are still there. So I get brought in, I work with geriatric care managers or elder care attorneys and work with the families to help make the place safe so that the person can come home again.
does that include, like, say they're coming home again, but they need assistance? Do you go that extra step to help them find maybe they need to put in a ramp for access, or maybe they need someone to live in or something to help them shower or bathe? Do your services include that, or is that something that's beyond your services?
Just because I have so much experience, I'll make that recommendation to whoever I'm coordinating with. You know, I was getting someone's home ready for them to return from rehab, and I noticed that the rug was incredibly bumpy, and I recommended to the family member, and I said, you know, it would. She's going to trip here again. She's going to end up back in the hospital. And I said, I think, you know, we should have the rug replaced. And she cleared it with the family, and we got a rug put in before she came home, and it, you know, made a big difference in terms of her ability to be able to walk around. But yeah, if I see something, I would make a recommendation. And you know, I have so many different people that I've networked with that I can make recommendations if they need a company that would provide an aid in the home, if they need a company that puts in ramps, you know, I can help. I wouldn't do it myself, obviously, but I could help recommend someone to do it.
I joke with my wife that my family's completely dysfunctional. I would hate to rely on my kids to make that decision for me. Oh, if he falls, no big deal. Do you ever run into anything like that?
What you do see are sometimes, and this is a really sad state of affairs, but you might have family members who don't want to spend the money. If the person is very advanced in age, they want to preserve their inheritance. So they don't want to spend the money that it might take to make the home safer, or like bring an aid in, or even bring in an organizer. There's a lot of resistance, and the resistance might come from that mentality where, you know, there's a nest egg here, and I don't want to take any more than I have to, because that money's mine. So I know it exists, you know, it exists in the world, and there are kids who will do anything for their parents and go the other way and spend their own money. So, you know, it's a spectrum, and you know, and there's all different people fall all different places in between.
Yeah, because I know in my business, I see people donating pictures for estate sales.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it breaks my heart, because these pictures are somebody's life story
Sure.
that you're giving to strangers. I'm like, why wouldn't you keep them?
And why wouldn't you just digitize them, and then you could have them
Exactly.
like 100%. 100%. Yes, I agree with that 100%. It's so sad. I've been in situations where I'm doing an estate clean out, and the family has said everything is garbage, everything has to go. And so I will donate, you know, whatever I can donate, but I'll come across letters, photographs, photo albums, and I'll circle back with the family again and say, I found all these things. Do you want me to, I could pack them up and send them to you? And they'll tell me to throw them in the garbage. So sometimes I feel like I'm reading I read the letters, or, you know, I'll look at the items, and it's sort of like I'm appreciating what's happening, but I can't, you know, I can't keep it. So then, and then I have to let it go. But I feel like as the last person reading it, it's sort of like it's my little mental tribute to just say like, okay, I appreciate what you went through, you know, applications to law school, or, you know, letters of rejection, letters of acceptance, whatever those things are, like, you know,
Cards.
it's little milestones in life that happen to this person, and it's gonna go in the garbage, but you know, and I'm gonna be the last one to see it before it goes there.
That's devastating,
Yeah.
because I mean, one of the things, after my parents passed away, I found a box in the basement, which I was going through. I have the very first card that was given to me. And that goes back, well, 59 years. And I have stuff that's the first Valentine's Day card that I actually drew. Of course, my spelling and grammar is horrendous. My grammar's improved, not so sure about my writing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff, I mean, for me, it's sentimental. I mean, the fact that my parents took the time to preserve it obviously meant a lot to them. So, and I mean, we reach a point in technology today where the stuff can be preserved. And I mean, given what I do, I can save the stuff for up to 300 years.
Yep.
So, I mean, it just blows me away.
Yeah, there's so many really creative solutions that you can do now to preserve things. So space limitation is no longer really an obstacle.
No. So what else does your company do?
Um, what else do I do? I help you move in, I help you move out, I help you stay where you are, and I do a lot of unusual problem solving for clients who may not be able to deal with life's little challenges. So sometimes, under the guise of organizing, I'm problem solving. And so I do a lot of like unusual tasks that relate to that very tangentially relate to organizing. For example, the other day I was late to an event because I had to stop at a client's house. She was having an issue with her sprinkler, and I had to let the sprinkler guy in. And the person at the event was like, "Well, what does that have to do with organizing?" But your lawyer, your doctor are people that you go to, but they may not have keys to your home. I have a key to your home and I know where things are. So I can let the sprinkler guy in because I have the key and I know where the system is and how to shut off the water. So, sometimes I end up with a lot of like project management or, oversight type of tasks because I have the access and the knowledge. So it all kind of falls under organizing.
Well, because I mean, I deal a lot with organizers, but given what I do, but I've yet to come across anybody that goes, I'd say, out of the box, but you're not even in a box. There's no box to even get out of. It sounds like you're kind of, it's like a one-stop shop.
Yeah. I have a clients who have like automated curtains that go up and down with a remote control that were broken. And I rewired them, to get them working again.
You rewired them?
Yeah, the wiring had separated and I was able to like put it back together again and repair them.
Oh, so you
I
can
have
hang doors, do electrical, ceiling fans.
I said, I'm like, Hunter Douglas should give me a certification as a technician because I basically like revamped their curtain system, their blind system. I do a lot of computer stuff.
Oh, you must be great at like a networking event. Which
Yeah,
hat do you want to wear for your networking event? Are you an organizer? Are you a plumber? Are you a
I have done plumbing work. I have, yeah, no, there's a lot. I do a lot. I hang pictures, I hang things. Uh, So what happens is you go into someone's home and it's like there's a pile of something and it's like, well, why is this pile here? And so you just want the pile to go away. So why is it there? Oh, because these are Amazon packages I need to return. And I don't know how to get the app to work, or I don't know how to do that, or I can't get there to do that. So I'll return Amazon packages for people. Why is this pile here? It's clothing that I needed to donate. Well, do you want me to just take them and drop them offshore? That's okay. Why is this pile here? Oh, these are all pictures that I wanted to hang up, but I'm nervous to hang things. I don't know how to do that. Do you want me to hang them? Sure. I hang them up. So, it's like it's just whatever it is, whatever that pile is, like let's just deal with it. And if I can help you solve the problem, I will.
yeah, because I can imagine seniors getting on ladders is probably not a good thing.
Right.
Given especially if they have mobility issues or things going on. So your business is expanding to DC, huh?
It is. It is. Yeah. Yeah. Exciting.
I'm sure. So is this only you, or do you have a team? Or
So I work almost always by myself. And then I'll bring in other helpers if there's like a time crunch or, like we have to get to a certain deadline. But mostly it's me And the reason why is because, especially with certain types of people who have anxiety about organizing, whether it be seniors or other people who are just anxious, having more than one person in your home touching your stuff can be overwhelming. So it's easier to work one-on-one, at least to start, to develop the relationship, get them to trust you. You know, there's a lot of issues with trust related to organizing. A lot of people have had someone organize for them before and have thrown out a lot of things, personal items that are important to them. So it's important to establish a rapport with somebody. And a lot of times, if the situation is really, really bad, family members might get frustrated because, you know, there'll be piles of things around, and I'll go in and maybe that first session we won't throw anything away. But there's a reason, you know, we'll move things strategically and we'll make space, but we won't actually get rid of anything, because I want to show them that, like, I'm not there to throw everything away arbitrarily. I'm there to honor what they want to keep and get rid of what they don't need anymore. And so sometimes, like, it takes a little while for them to trust you to do that.
I can imagine. Now, do organizers have to be bonded and insured, or is that something that just deals with other professions?
So organizers should be insured. Because they're in your home, and there's, you know, there's all different issues around being in someone's home if something breaks, if you get hurt. So yeah, they should be. You can hire an organizer who's not, like, in the same way that you can hire anyone who's not, and you take your chances. But, you know, I carry business insurance for that purpose. That's specific to my profession.
It sounds like things are quite busy up wherever you are.
Sorry, yeah, I'm not in
It's perfectly fine. So so aside from dealing with your elderly, when people say somebody has, well, in your case, you have 3 kids. So if you help somebody move in, I'm assuming you help them organize that. But then after it's organized, is there like a maintenance plan to keep things neat and tidy, or do you have to, like, go in and start from scratch each time they call you because places look like it was hit by an F5 tornado?
I mean, I encourage people who have trouble doing it on their own to have me come in on a regular basis so it doesn't get bad again. So I have clients who I see on a weekly basis and a monthly basis, quarterly. And some people, they do wait until things get pretty bad and they call me and say, it got bad again, you need to come back. So I can't force someone to make me come more often, but sometimes some people are like, if you're not here, I won't do it. I mean, and there are cases where I come in and I watch people organize. I stand there and watch them, and they say, I know it seems silly, but I wouldn't do this unless you were standing here. So my job is to stand there and give them encouragement.
Well, you're there. So you're basically their accountability partner.
Yep. I'm the fire that burns under your butt that makes you do things. That's who I am.
Now, how do people reach you?
So people often reach me through what I was saying before, which is the directory for the National Association of Professional Organizers, which is napo.net, NAPO. And you can look up geographically. So a lot of people find me through there, but my website is www.stowandbehold.com. And, I have a contact page there. You can call me, you can fill out the contact form. I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, all under Stow and Behold.
Awesome. So you mentioned you're expanding into DC.
Yes.
So I'll take my own example.
Mm-hmm.
I live in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
West Virginia falls within the whole Washington, D.C. metro area.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see where you're going.
So what's your take?
For me to travel outside of my core area, a client would pay for transportation and accommodation and all that stuff. So that's what's happening in this case. So, which is why I'm doing it. So it's not something I would do on the regular, but if the client wants that, then I would make it happen.
That's awesome. So we're coming up on, we have about 20 minutes left. Whether or not you want to use it all is up to you. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Have I missed anything? Given your
I
vast repertoire of skill sets of handyman, organizer, car mechanic, maybe.
I have not fixed a car. But I also, one of my superpowers is that I can get something to stop making the noise that it's making, which is often a complaint that I get when I come to someone's home. Like there's something ringing and I can't figure out what it is, or can you make this thing stop ringing? Or can you make this alarm stop going off? And I have gone into people's cars and tried to fix something that's, like, why is it making this dinging noise? And it's, it has something to do with like, you have to look at the user manual and figure out why it's making that alarm. And I usually try to help them solve those kinds of problems. Again, it's not really organizing, but it's sort of like problem solving. So I'm not fixing your car, but I have organized cars, cleaned out cars, so that they work better. So I do expand outside of the house. My range goes onto the property.
So in your vast travels, what's the most bizarre thing you've ever found?
I'm nervous to say it, but you can edit it out, I guess, if you don't want it to be in there. I've had a client who had certain fetishes, and so that type of equipment I have found. And then I have also found a lot of stuff related to drugs, where I've taken photos of things and sent it to local law enforcement, like on a personal level, not to report the person, but just to say, like, what is this? And they have told me, I hope you're wearing gloves, because that's heroin. And I've also.
And did the police follow up with that?
No, because I didn't report the activity, the usage. It was usage. It wasn't like selling. It was, someone's using, and they have bigger issues to deal with than me calling the cops on them. So I'll let that go. I've also had to pack up for a move. I've had to pack up broken glass because someone was an artist and they used certain things in their artwork. And so piles of glass had to be properly packed and labeled for transport. And baby coffins. I had a client who had several baby coffins on display in their home.
I hope there wasn't anything in them.
No. But in that same home, there were human remains, like a skull and like a hip bone, on display that they got at some kind of like oddity shop in the Midwest somewhere. And
I don't even want to know what this person does.
She's an artist.
Artist. I can't imagine what kind of artist uses a hip bone in
art.
I'm sure it is.
So the baby coffins really threw me. That really threw me. But people, they get their hands on certain things, and they, one man's treasure. Going back to that old saying.
I guess it can be interpreted in several different ways. Now, exactly. Have you ever, and I'm stretching this a long way, come into like where you found people where children have been abused?
No, I did find a home once where one of the kids was living in the basement The house was very small. He had a little bed. And when I talked to the mom, she never mentioned this kid until I found the bed. And I said, well, who's sleeping here? Is this for guests? And she said, oh, no, that's for my other son. And the issue was that they had two sets of twins, and this kid was in the middle. And so I think he just sort of got lost in the shuffle a little bit. So it was not a case of abuse, but it was a case of like just overwhelmed parenting and trying to just
Neglect?
I don't know. I don't think he was neglected, but I think he definitely was, I think he wanted to be separated from the situation going on upstairs. But yeah, that was probably the closest. I've been very lucky not to have seen a whole lot of that. I did have a client once who was disabled, and she had adopted a small child, and that child was basically acting as her servant, like because she physically couldn't. And, the girl was 7 and she was cooking, cleaning, maintaining, helping the mom physically, like with her medical needs and stuff. And it was way too much for a young child.
What did you do with a situation like that?
Well, the outcome was that they brought me in, and she wasn't able to hire me because she couldn't afford it. So then I returned and offered to do the child's room pro bono, which I did. And then after that, the woman, she wasn't taking care of herself, and she got sick, and she actually died very suddenly. And the silver lining was that this child was adopted by a relative who was a mom and had children, and she ended up in a really wonderful family. So it was a terrible tragedy, but in the end, it had a happy ending.
Well, I have to say, your job takes you to many destinations.
It does. I meet a lot of people, and I learn a lot about the struggles that people are going through, and I do my part to make it a little better.
Well, I think people are very blessed to have you, and that you step so far out of the box to help them.
Thank you.
So with that being the case, I'm going to let you go, because I'm sure you have things to organize, lamps to fix, blinds to rewire, and things like that. This has been a complete pleasure.
Yes.
I will be in touch.
Okay.
And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. All of Tina's contact information will be on my YouTube channel. It will be on LinkedIn as well as Facebook. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm at jeff@mydigital-memories.com. And be sure to tune in or get in touch with Tina if you need organizing assistance. I wasn't going to say, organizing, etc. But that might be that's probably another company. So let's leave it at that. And Tina, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you joining. This has been fun, a learning experience. So it sounds like I've got to go through all my stuff and take care of everything. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's really nice talking to you.
I'm Jeff Kay, founder of My Digital Memories. We preserve, protect, and organize your precious memories, which include your photographs, negatives, videotapes, home movies, records, and cassette tapes. These can be stored for today and future generations. After our parents died, my sister and I were cleaning out their home, and we came across boxes of photos that we wanted and our kids wanted. I knew I had to digitize all these paper photographs, slides, and negatives so they could be shared with family and friends. In My Digital Memories, we take your photos and most types of media and digitize them. We're able to restore photographs and remove unwanted scratches or blemishes. We We also digitize home movies. We deliver the end product into any type of storage imaginable, whether it's on a USB thumb drive, a DVD, or storage in the cloud. We make it easier for you to share your digital memories with family and friends. Were you aware your family memories, paper photographs, and other media were only designed to last a maximum of 20 years in a climate-controlled environment? People care about their memories, genealogy, and where they come from. My client Sally gave me countless VHS tapes and had no idea of the treasure she was about to find. She heard her father's voice for the first time. Her father died in Vietnam and she never met him. She broke down in tears and was extremely grateful. Let's always remember our pets, our furry friends who are loyal to the end. Please contact me to preserve what is most valuable in your life for today and future generations. You are never forgotten with my digital memories.